What if the reason that you got dumped or talked over at work has nothing to do with your communication skills and everything to do with something that nobody's talking about and no one can even see or hear? Because if you're watching this, you are already ahead of 90% of people. Not because your communication skills are perfect, I mean, I wouldn't know that, but because you're aware enough to know that something isn't lining up. And that awareness alone puts you in the top tier. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be better than most. And the bar is lower than ever. The supply of strong communicators has collapsed. Demand skyrocketed. So where does that put you at work if you even rise slightly above the norm? It puts you earning $8,000 to $12,000 per year more than an equally qualified peer who just can't express themselves under pressure or with difficult or toxic people. That's where it puts you. If you have 10 years left, that is $150,000. If you have 20 years with compound interest, that's over $420,000. But this is not about the money. The woman who chooses being nice and being liked over being clear and true to herself, she gets dates and relationships, but only until her partner gets bored and leaves her. The woman who respects herself enough to tell the truth and be clear, even when her voice shakes and trembles, she gets the partner that chooses her, respects her, builds a life around her, not because she's loud, because she's clear and honest and authentic. I mean, no one ever says, wow, what a woman, about a submissive Stepford wife. And here's the thing that nobody explains. This is not about what you're saying. It's about the frequency you're transmitting on when you say it. Communication isn't a performance, it's a broadcast. And let me ask you something. Who tuned your dial? Because what if before you even open up your mouth, your frequency is already broadcasting? What if you are trying to send an FM message on an AM frequency and you don't even know the dial's off? For me, it wasn't one dramatic moment. It was 100 small recalibrations. See, I grew up the younger brother of the coolest kid in school. There he is. We're 10 months apart. Marty. He's the best brother ever. Everybody loves him. He loves everybody. He loves his wife more every year. He thinks she's more beautiful every year. He's loyal to his friends and family. He gets good grades. He's a great provider. He has it all. He can dance. He makes people feel welcome before he even speaks. If you ever had a homecoming queen sister who's older than you, or a star quarterback brother who's older than you, everywhere I went, he had already been there. And so things like, oh, that's your brother? Do you have to bring him? Oh, he's not really the student, Marty is, but he'll do okay. Oh, Dan, is your brother here? Every time I'd hear things like that, the dial would shift just a little bit, just a fraction. Not enough to notice, but enough to change the station eventually. If you know what I'm talking about and you have that type of older sibling, you know that you grew up learning where you are ranked. And your nervous system remembers it. Your brain forms judgments in under 200ths of a millisecond. Your emotional brain, it processes postures, micro-expressions, tone, 7 times faster than logic. What this means is you can't hide your frequency. You may try to hide it. You may soften it. But your signal speaks first. You know, this self-soothing groom, the glance down, the hi smile. So here's the real question. If your frequency was shaped without your permission, could it be reshaped by your choice? Because that's exactly what I learned how to do. I don't consider myself any more or less confident than anybody else, but I know that my frequency is calibrated correctly. Now it is. That's what I'm going to show you how to do. There are 4 shifts. Once you realize that this isn't about becoming somebody new, it's about returning to who you were on the right frequency. Let's begin. If you saw my last video about Craig Shipman, my brother and I were working together at the time. When I left, he left. He's loyal. So I found a new speaking gig. Final interview came. I brought my brother as my lovely assistant. He was offered the job as the speaker. I was offered the job as the assistant. Calibrated. Rebecca Pace. She was another speaker at the speakers event. I said, oh my God, did you see how much I just bombed? I had just bombed. And she said, what are you talking about? Sweetheart, you couldn't bomb if you tried. You have something that other people don't have, and it's what sets you apart. You're authentic. I remember that the earth stood still. I watched her mouth as she said it, and it had such an impact on me. I could identify her body right now by her dental records because I was so focused on her lips as she said it. It was seared into my soul. I thought, no one can compete with me when it comes to my authenticity. That's all me. I have that. She taught me that me being authentic and thinking that I bombed, but went on anyway, it gave everybody else permission to be more of themselves, more authentic. And it's one of the most difficult things that people can be is authentic. There is a way to do it and recalibrate your signal at the same time so that your message lands with the right audience. Once you see these, you're going to realize it's not about becoming somebody new. It's about returning to who you were before the static rewrote you and got in the way of your message. You ready? These are 4 shifts. Shift 1. When somebody questions you, dismisses you, corners you, tries to dominate the room, what answers back is not your knowledge. It's your internal storyline. You do not rise to your best thinking. You default to your deepest identity. If I were to say to you, to all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, what comes after that?
To all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese,
Pickles, onions, and a sesame seed bun, which leads to a disturbing question. Why do you remember that? How does that serve you? What identity is running this show? If I were to ask you right now, who are you? Why are you here? And what do you want? Let's start with who are you? Finish the sentence. I am what? Let's move past that. I want what? What do you want? Why are you here? If you can't fill in the blanks, I am, I'm here too, and I want, throws your frequency off. That's where the personal compass comes in. There are 3 statements. They're not motivation or affirmations. They're an internal override that quietly resets your signal. If you can't answer those now, when emotions run high or under pressure, you don't stand a chance and it throws your frequency off. That's where the personal compass comes in. 3 statements, not affirmations, an internal override that quietly resets your frequency. Once those become familiar and you can answer those under pressure, changes everything. How do you do that? It's all about repetition, repetition, repetition. I mean, why do you know what's on a Big Mac? Because it's so important to you? Because it's who you are? Special sauce, lettuce, and cheese? No, it's because of repetition, repetition, repetition. Everything changes when you have the right tools to remember who you are and reset your frequency when it counts. When you have the right tools, it'll change who you are in those moments when you normally would forget. Because that's what stress does. You will forget who you are. Do you have a way to remind yourself? Most people do not, and it shows. You want to be in the 1% elite? You want to get the privileges that they enjoy? You have to use the tools that they use. That's 1. Number 2, you have to live inside the right minds. Have you ever had those moments? I have, where I'm hanging out with the wrong crowd, and I'll say the wrong thing around my mother, and she'll say,
I don't know who you're hanging out with, but it's not becoming.
And I was totally busted. I was found out. Because you can't really help but reflect the people you're hanging around or who are influencing you. Your circle of influence, you become like them. If these people who you're trying to tune in with, you do not respect or do not like or do not admire, I would encourage you to rethink that. If, however, you want to be a part of this group, you want to connect with people who you're just not connecting with, there's something missing, here's what you want to do. Put yourself in their brains. I know it's difficult to do. You want to sit with them all day long. Let their thoughts seep into yours. How do you do that? Read biographies and autobiographies. Number 1, when you read, you calibrate your brain. Both sides start to work together. It's one of the only ways we can do that. And you have a more whole-brained approach to everything that you do when you read more. In addition to that, if you read biographies and autobiographies, it is like hanging out with the people that you want to understand. It's like getting into the brain of the people that you want to understand you. You begin to sync with them. Their patterns become your patterns. Their problem-solving skills become your problem-solving skills. Their language patterns become your language patterns. Are you feeling me? And because most of us don't have access to these people in our lives, the ones who we aspire to be like, or we would already be like them, that's what biographies and autobiographies do. Watch. If you immerse yourself in them, all of a sudden, you will say something in front of somebody that you're close to, and they'll be like, since when did you start talking or thinking like that? And then you know the dial has been moved. Which raises a compelling question. If you can create this shift just by entering the right minds, how much of your current frequency is truly yours? 3, speak the visual language of your world. Every group has a silent language that's invisible, something that's communicated through objects, style, and subtle status cues that signal belonging before a single syllable is spoken. For example, there's this book that I love called No Shame in My Game. If you've read it, you know it's about these symbols, these things that signal status, that signal respect. For example, in many socioeconomic groups, I learned, it's keys. You know how you'll see people walk around with big sets of keys that are jingling around when they walk? It's not by accident. People who tend to have those do it and let them jingle because that signals something. It signals responsibility. It signals respect. I remember when I was hanging out with my brother, he gave me one of those wallets with the chain that hangs up to the front. The moment I started wearing that, all of a sudden, I belonged a little bit more with his friends because I was sending out the right signal. Then I got my first pair of Doc Marten boots. Then my brother saw them and he explained to me why they were all wrong and gave me the right pair of Doc Marten steel toe oxblood boots. That was the right signal. I fit in a little bit more. I'd like you to think about the people with whom you'd like to connect, the energy that they have, the vibration, the frequency. Look at their bag. Does it look like they just pulled it out of the trunk of their car on the way into work? Do you see them in sweats with their hair pulled back on a casual Friday? Do they look like they are intentional with their look? Have you noticed what their symbols are that show what socioeconomic group they are in? What do they display that sends a signal, what frequency they're on? If you want to tune into them, if you want them to hear you, it's like if you're a country music station and all of a sudden you just played a R&B song just once because you wanted those people to listen. They're not tuned in, so nobody's going to hear it. The people who are tuned in are going to hear that and go, what's with that? You want to get on their frequency. You want to know what the instruments are. You want to know what the melody is, the signals. One of the things you will notice, the people who you admire, I'm sure, they're structured. Structure comes before substance. Does your presence look intentional or accidental? Is your style coherent or hopeful? Style is not fashion, it's gravitas. You want to have a signature. What that means is, this is what I'm going with. That's mine. It's done. I've figured it out. Like for me, anything casual, I go for polo. Dress, boss. The reason is because anything at polo goes with anything else polo, and I'm a horrible dresser, so I don't have to worry about it. It's all appropriate, and it's made for a grown-up man. Boss suit, good to go with the white shirt. It looks intentional. Intentional. Here's how you can look more intentional and attract the ears of those who are more intentional. That's who you want. Do not go to places like Marshall's and TJ Maxx and see what's there to get a good deal. You are throwing your money in the garbage. Instead, go to places that curate looks for professional women. You'll hit the mark much more often, and you'll save tons of money if you just invest in a couple of core signature pieces. When it comes to your manicure, Princess Diana had a signature manicure. It was an opalescent, square cut, slightly rounded. Some people call it the princess manicure, the Lady Di manicure. If you're like me and you don't know, and you struggle with finding a signature style, do things like choose one and stick with it, like little Lady Di manicure. I mean, are you going to do better than Lady Di? Go with that. It's age appropriate, it's structured, and intentional. Those are the 3 words you want to go for. Age appropriate, structured, intentional. I put some links in the description for people who are specifically challenged as I am. Men, go to the polo store, buy anything. Women, get a structured Coach bag, a crisp white shirt, trouser pants, sassy belt, a structured wrap. They're not vanity items, they're visual shorthand. These are social signals that say, she understands this world. Then if you top it off with something like a simple Waterman pen with a heavy metal tip, that way when you need to tell somebody to stop, bang that sucker on the table, not only will it have gravitas and stop someone from interrupting you, people will hear it, they'll look at your Waterman pen and think, nice, you've covered your frequency. But what if your identity is reinforced by what you repeatedly show the world? What message are your current choices broadcasting before you open your mouth? And what might change the moment you choose one signal and make it unmistakably yours? Shift 4. This is the one that most people avoid because it requires honesty, not performance. Do a private video diary. Like in my private waitlist for my communication course, you have to. The reason is, imagine this. There are 2 artists on the radio. Okay, they both start at the same time. They're both really good. One of them listened to their own music with a critical ear and decided that works, that doesn't, I'm going to improve that, I'm going to scratch that. The other one did not. They just kept putting stuff out. Which one do you think more quickly fine-tuned their craft and connected more quickly with their audience? I'm going to put a link to my original How to Develop and Use a Personal Compass video. When you watch it, you will see I did that over 14 years ago. I thought I was being authentic. It's kind of tough to watch, but the information is stellar. So I do encourage you to watch it, especially if you struggle with making a personal compass. I thought that's how I really talked. I'm also going to put a link to something that I normally only give in my private waitlist groups. It helps you generate a personal compass instantly. Toastmasters, they show that consistent self-observation improves clarity and presence. When do people do that? Record every day, 5 minutes. Make it private on YouTube. No one will see it but you. Just make a video diary of your day. Studies show that people who do that are more emotionally healthy than people who do not. They are less depressed than people who do not. They tend to overcome challenges more quickly and more frequently than people who do not. There are a million benefits that you will get from keeping a diary. Keeping a video diary will help you not only do all of those things, but it will help you take stock of the way you communicate, how it looks, the frequency you're broadcasting on. After viewing your own signal, viewing your own frequency, can it really change and can you tune in quickly? Yeah, of course. When you start watching yourself every day, you stop being critical, you'll get over the cringe, and you start to fine-tune things and you'll say, I'm going to change that, I'm going to add that, I'm going to scratch that, I'm going to do more of that. You very quickly make huge leaps that most people never make in their calibration. What do you think happens after you do that for 30 days, after a year? You start broadcasting to the right viewers in the right frequency. I mean, if your voice learned survival before strength, what do you think would happen if you consciously retuned it? The moment you start recalibrating your signal and your frequency, the world stops misreading you and connecting with who you are. And if you'd like to go more into this type of work, I've opened up my private waitlist group for my new communication course that's coming up. It's not surface level. It's really deep recalibration training where we dismantle the static and rebuild the signal with precision, power, and presence, and grace. The link to join that is below. And when the doors open, only the people in my list will get early access with special pricing because you don't need a new voice. You need the same one that's always been there. You just need to tune into it, broadcast it, and it's closer than you think.